welcome back to the channel. So today we will be seeing how we do a pivot of a data frame in PySpark, right? So let's see the input and the output. So in the input, if you see, we have the cricket data, right? Cricket data, if you see the column player name, stadium, runs, wicket, and catches. And in the output also, we have this like similar data, but it is a pivoted. So we are doing the pivot on this column. We are doing the pivot on stadium column. Now, if you see in the player name column, we have three distinct value, that is Jadeja, Hardik, and Watson, right? And in the stadium also, we have two unique value, that is uh, one Wankhede and this Eden Garden, right? So we have these two unique value, and we have three different other columns, that is runs, wicket, and catches. Okay, now let's see how this output data is getting generated. Let's understand one of the row, that is, let's understand the first row, Jadeja, right? How the Jadeja has performed, how we are calculating that. Okay, let me erase these things. Okay, so if you see here, what we are doing, we are like grouping the data on player name. Let me write over here. We are grouping the data on player name, right? And we are pivoting the data based on stadium column, right? Okay, now let's see. So the first column is run in Wankhede for the Jadeja. So let's see how we are getting this 100 over here. So we have Jadeja and Wankhede. Jadeja over here, and let me remove this thing. Jadeja, this is 40, and again, so this is also Jadeja, but this is Eden Garden, so we don't want this. Now here also we have Jadeja, and this is 60. So 40 plus 60, we are getting 100. So that's why we here, if you see, the runs in Wankhede is 100. Similarly, let's see the wicket. So for Jadeja in Wankhede, wicket first here is 2, here is 1. So that's why we are getting 3 over here. Runs in Eden Garden. So okay, now total we have 3 record. 2 are from Wankhede, 1 is from Eden Garden. So we have 25 over here, right? And similarly, uh, wickets in Eden Garden. So let's see wickets in Eden Garden. We have 3 wickets in Eden Garden, so that's why we have over 3 over here. We have not considered catches over here, but we can play with that also. That is like your homework. You need to play with catches and create multiple or more column over here also, right? So I think the input and output is quite simple. Like we will not directly generate from this input to this output. We will play around it and then we will finally generate this, right? So let's see how we can do this in Databricks notebook. Okay, now here we are in our Databricks notebook. So here we are creating this data frame. So now if you see, we are using the same data frame, right? And this is the data, match data, and this is the schema where we have the four or five columns, right? And we are using the create data frame, and we are passing those two uh, values. And here if you see, we are printing the data. So let me print this. Okay, now total in we have 10 records, right? Now let's start playing with the pivot function. Okay, so we can write pivot df equal to, and what was our data frame name? Match df, right? So let's okay, now as I mentioned, what we will do, we will group the data on player name, right? We want like output like this. So basically in pivot, it's totally based on what exactly you need, right? And based on that, you will play with these functions. Okay, okay. Now let me write. We will pivot this based on player name, right? So we will group this first based on player name, and then we will pivot based on stadium. So we will write pivot dot pivot, and we want which column? Stadium column, right? Stadium. and let me write first sum on runs. Okay, let's see what we are getting, and we will modify this. Okay, so first we need to run this. I had ran before, that's why like we are getting this output. But yes, okay, let me run this again. Okay, now if you see, for each player we are getting the, since we are pivoting the data based on stadium, so that's why we are having the two columns. Why two columns? Because we are having two distinct stadium, right? We are having two distinct stadium, that's why we are getting two different columns, since we are pivoting the data on stadium column, right? And we are doing the aggregation on the runs, so that's why we are getting the runs. So let's see the for Hardik now this time. So in the Eden Garden, we are getting 130, right? Let's see how we are getting 130 over here. So for Hardik in the Eden Garden, right? So let me do this. So Hardik, if you see here we have 55. So let's add up 55, and then Hardik again here. This is Wankhede, and the next is again Eden Garden. So we are getting 30 over here, and where is Hardik again? This is 45, right? So 45. Okay, now let's sum it up. So 0, 4, 3, 8, 8 and 4, 12. And from there, one carry, that is 130. Let's see what we are getting. Here also we are getting 130, right? Similarly, Wankhede, let's see Wankhede. So Hardik, Wankhede, we have 45. So that's why we are getting over here also 45, right? So this is how we are getting the this output, right? So what we are doing, we are pivoting the data on stadium, and we are calculating the runs. Now let's do the wickets also. Now we should get wicket column also. Okay, let me run this again. Okay, now if you see, we have total 4 column. Why 4 column? Let me explain you. So if you see, we are getting this Eden Garden sum of runs, first column. Eden Garden sum of wicket, second column. Wankhede sum of run, third column. Wankhede sum of wicket, fourth column. So this is how pivoting works, right? So let's say like here by default in the stadium we have two distinct values. That's why we are getting like two record. But what if I don't want for all the unique value in the stadium column? I want just on only one. Let's say I want only on Eden Garden. So what I can do, I can just pass Eden Garden, right? And let me run this. And let me run this again. Okay. Now if you see, we are only getting two columns. Why two columns? We are doing the summation on run and wicket. So, and only on one column. So that's why we are getting these two. I hope this is simple, right? And earlier how it was, if we do not pass this, then what is happening? We have two distinct value in stadium, two, and we are doing the aggregation on two column, two into two. So that's why we are getting 4 column, right? And in the output also we want 4 columns. That is, we want to do the summation on runs and wicket, and we want to consider both the column, right? So how we can do, we can like pass both the column, or by default it is like it will consider all the unique value. But for sake of understanding, what we can do, we can pass those two columns, right? So we can pass here the Wankhede, and the second column is we want Eden Garden, right? So let me do the Eden Garden, and let me run this. So how many column we should have? We should have 4 column. Why? Because we have two distinct value over here and 2 column here. So 2 into 2, 4. So let me run this again. Okay, now if you see, we have 4 columns, right? And if you see here, this column name are not proper, right? Like we are getting Wankhede sum of runs and Wankhede sum of wickets. So what we can do, we can rename this. How we can rename this? We can use with rename column, right? So let me do that. Okay, So before printing this data, what we can do, we can add one cell, and we can rename this column so that we can see the result properly. So we can use renamed with column rename, right? And what we can do, we just need to pass each and every column and their respective name. So let me pass this. This is the old value, and how we want this to be runs in Wankhede, right? So this is column one. Now let's like chain the operations. So we can write with column renamed, and we can pass the second thing. So this is the old value. This is how the syntax work. Basically, this is the old value, and new value what we want. We want wickets in Wankhede, right? Now let's do the third column also with column renamed, and let's give this Eden Garden runs, and then we can write runs in Eden Garden. Okay, the last column with, and we need to pass this old value, and then the new value, that is wickets in Eden Garden. So we can replace this as Eden Garden, right? Let me run this. Okay, now let me run this again. Okay, awesome, right? Now you can see we are getting the exactly the same output what we were having over here. So yes, I think now you understood how the pivoting work. I think we have considered all the cases, right? And we also understood how many columns will be there, how many rows will be there, right? So rows depend on the grouping of the data. So in the player ID, we are having the three distinct value. That's why the row are three and the column depend on these configuration, right? So yes, if you like this content, please do like, subscribe, and share the channel. And if you are new to this channel, you can like check out other playlists also where I have covered the scenario-based interview question, PySpark, SQL, and all those things, right? So let's meet in the next problem. Until then, bye.